Welcome to a series of videos looking at trigonometry. I'm your presenter today, Aaron Lewis. In this series of videos, we'll be looking at right angle triangle trigonometry, using the sine rule, using the cosine rule, calculating the area of triangles, and the graphs of trigonometric functions. In this lesson, we are looking at the sine rule. We will be using the sine rule to calculate side lengths and angles of triangles. We will be using a calculator, and this lesson is suitable for students who are going to be taking A-level maths. The language of this lesson is English, and it should be around 30 minutes. The learning aims of this lesson are to be able to calculate an unknown side length of a triangle using the sine rule, to be able to calculate an unknown angle of a triangle using the sine rule. The first thing we need to do is label triangles correctly. This is not the same as labeling a right angle triangle. The first thing we do is label one of the sides lowercase a. Which means the angle opposite, which is this one, gets the label of capital A. Choosing another side, which is a lowercase b, means the angle opposite is written as capital B. And the final side would be lowercase c, and the opposite angle is capital C. All that matters is that the capitals are opposite the lowercase letters. Looking at the example below. I shall call this side A, which means this angle here will be capital A. This side here I shall call lowercase b. Therefore, the opposite angle is capital B. The final side I shall call lowercase c. And the opposite angle is capital C. All that matters is that the lowercase letters are opposite the capital. Here is the sine rule. In the first formula, you will notice that all the sides are numerators. And in the second formula, you will notice that the angles are the numerators. And the general rule is that if you're finding an unknown side, use the formula where the angles, where the sides are the numerators. So therefore this top formula here. If we're calculating an angle, use this bottom formula. This time, we're going to label the triangles and choose the correct formula. first thing I'm going to do is label the triangle. I am going to call this side here lowercase a. Therefore, the opposite angle will be capital A. I shall call this side lowercase b and the opposite angle capital B. The final side is a lowercase c and the opposite angle is capital C. And now it doesn't matter if I'd have started by calling the 10 centimeter side lowercase a. That would just mean that the opposite angle, 30-degree angle, would have been capital A. So if I were solving this problem, I'm trying to find a length. So I would be using the red formula there. Going to the question underneath. This time I'm trying to find an angle. So I'm going to label the angle capital A. Therefore the opposite side will be lowercase a. The 50-degree angle will be called capital B. The opposite side will be lowercase b. And for the final pair, this bottom angle is capital C. And the side opposite is lowercase c. And in this question we're trying to find an angle. Therefore I would be using the purple formula, where the sine A, sine B and sine C are numerators. The next example, I'm trying to calculate y, which is a side, so I'm going to call that lowercase a. And the angle opposite is the 50-degree angle, therefore that is capital A. I'm going to call the 5 centimeter side B, therefore the 100-degree angle is capital B. The final angle will be capital C and the final side will be lowercase c. And in this question we're trying to calculate a side length, so it's the red formula, which is where the sides are numerators. Final example. This time I'm finding an angle. So I'm going to label X as capital A. The 10 centimeter side is lowercase a. The 50-degree side I shall call capital B. Therefore the 8 centimeter side is lowercase b. And the final two sides, sorry, the final side and the final angle, that angle is capital C, and this side here is lowercase c. Therefore the formula I would use is the purple one. I'm trying to find an angle, so the angles are the numerators. Okay, let's have a look at some worked example problem pairs. I shall do the question on the left, and the question on the right is for you to have a go at. So in this first question, we're just going to label the triangle and decide which version of the sine rule to use. I'm trying to find x, so I'm calling that lowercase a. The opposite angle to that is the 50-degree angle, which is now labelled capital A. The next side I've labelled B, which is the 4 centimeter side. The angle opposite is capital B. The final side is lowercase c, and the angle opposite is capital C. And because I'm trying to calculate a length or a side, I'm using the formula where the lengths are the numerators. Here is your question. pause the video and have a go now. Here is my solution. Yours might be slightly different. The only thing you need to check is that the opposite have the same letter. So the side lowercase a is opposite the angle capital A. Here is another example. I'm labelling this side as lowercase a. The 50-degree angle is capital A. I've labelled the 5 centimetre side as lowercase b. Therefore the 100-degree angle is capital B. The final side, the third side, is lowercase c, and the angle opposite is capital C. And I'm finding a side length there is the correct formula. I'm finding a side length, so the lengths are on the numerators. Here is your question. Pause the video and have a go now. Here is the solution. So this time we were trying to find an angle, so the angles need to be on the numerator. Now your labelling might be slightly different to mine, but as long as the uppercase and lowercase are opposite to each other, it will be correct. Have a go at mini quiz 1, and when you're finished, come back to the video. In the next examples, we're going to try and find the length of an unknown side using the sine rule. In this question, we're asked to calculate the value of x. So the first thing I'm going to do is label each side. Here we go. So the x side labelled x, I'm going to call lowercase a. Therefore, the 50-degree angle shall be capital A. The 10 centimetre side is lowercase b. Therefore, the 30-degree angle is capital B. The final side is lowercase c. And the final angle is capital C. First thing I'm going to do is decide which version of the formula I'm using. And in this case, because we're trying to find the length of a side, we're going to be using the formula where the sides are numerators. Now we don't need to use all the formula. We only need to use 2 sections. First thing I'm going to do is to substitute lowercase a for x, capital A for 50, lowercase b for 10, and capital B for 30. We do not need to use this final part. Therefore, x divided by sine 50 is equal to 10 sine 30. And what we'd like to do is get x equals. So all we need to do is multiply both sides by sine 50. Notice the sine 50 has become a numerator here. Next thing I'm going to do is pick up my calculator and type it in exactly as it is written on the page. Typing that in, the answer becomes 15.32 centimeters. So the first thing you need to do is label the triangle, decide which formula you are using, substitute the values, and then solve. Here is your question. Pause the video and have a go now. Here's the solution. Now I have labelled this y as lowercase a, 50 degrees as capital A, 5 as lowercase b, and 100 degrees as capital B. And as before, I've only used 2 parts of the formula. This line I have multiplied through by sine 50, and to get to the final line, I've just typed all of this into my calculator. Here's another example. Again with this problem, we are trying to find the length. So I've labelled this side as lowercase a, therefore the opposite angle is capital A. The 7 centimeter side is lowercase b. The 43 degree angle is capital B. And in this case here, I don't need the other side or the other angle, so I haven't bothered labelling it. So I'm swapping at the formula, this formula here, I'm swapping a, lowercase a for x, capital A for 20 degrees, b I'm substituting for 7 centimeters, and capital B I'm substituting for 43 degrees. Here is the next line. So x divided by sine 20 is equal to 7 divided by sine 43. As before, we'd like to get x equals, so we multiply both sides by sine 20. So x is equal to 7 sine 20 divided by sine 43, and therefore x equals 3.51 centimeters. There is your question. Pause the video and have a go now. Here is the solution. So first thing to do was to label the triangle. That is A, capital A, B, capital B. And we are looking for a side length, therefore the sides are the numerators. So y divided by sine 150 equals 18 divided by sine 5. Multiplying through by sine 150 and typing that into your calculator, y equals 103.26. Have a go at mini quiz 2 and come back to the video when you're ready. And in the final examples, we're going to try and find an unknown angle using the sine rule. Here is the question. And the first thing I'm going to do is label the triangle. Now, because we are finding an angle, I've called the x angle capital A. Therefore, the 1 centimeter side is lowercase a. The 50-degree angle is capital B. Therefore, the 4 centimeter side is lowercase b. I don't need to label the other angle or the other side in this question. I'm using this formula as I'm finding an angle. I'm noticing that capital A is equal to x, lowercase a is equal to 1, uppercase B is equal to 50 degrees, and lowercase b is equal to 4. My next job is to substitute those values into the formula. And there we go. The first step is I'm going to multiply both sides by 1. Notice the 1 becomes a numerator here. Next thing I need to do is I'd like to get x equals, so I need to inverse sine both sides. Therefore, x is equal to the inverse sine, open the bracket, 1 sine 50, all divided by 4. Then I'm typing all of this side into my calculator. And therefore, x is equal to 11.04 degrees. Here is your question. Pause the video and have a go now. Here is the solution, and I've labelled like this. So the value of y is equal to 30.71 degrees. Here is another example. Again, notice I'm trying to find an angle. So I've decided to label the x angle as capital A. The 100-degree angle as capital B. The 5 centimeter side is lowercase b. And the 2 centimeter side is lowercase a. So all I'm going to do is substitute those values into the formula. And there we go. Got an extra 0 on there. Next stage is to multiply both sides by 2. Again, notice the 2 becomes a numerator. The final step is to inverse sine both sides and type all of this into my calculator and press equals. Therefore, the angle is 23.20 degrees. Here is your question. Pause the video and have a go now. Here is the solution. I've labelled like this. So sine y divided by 10 is equal to sine 50 divided by 8. I've multiplied both sides by 10, and then I've inverse signed both sides. Therefore, x is equal, should be y there, y is equal to 73.25. Have a go at mini quiz 4 and press play when you're ready to continue. Looking at today's learning aims, we looked at being able to calculate the side length of a triangle using the sine rule, and to be able to calculate an angle of a triangle using the sine rule. That is the end of this lesson, and thank you very much for watching.